Labor represents 2/3 of value added in developed economies. This output depends entirely on millions of individuals actively choosing whether to participate in the market and for how many hours. Economists track these choices through specific parameters. The labor force consists of everyone currently employed or actively seeking a job. The participation rate measures this force against the working age population, while the employment and unemployment rates track who has found work versus who is still searching. Looking at the labor force participation rate in India from 2017 to 2024 reveals a significant demographic divide. In the total rural plus urban column, the numbers for men and women follow two completely different trajectories. Male participation is remarkably consistent, remaining between 75 and 80% throughout the 7-year period. Female participation, however, is much lower, ranging from 23 to 41%. General wealth levels do influence these numbers via the income effect, where higher household earnings allow for more leisure. But the 40-point gap between Indian men and women suggests that something beyond simple household wealth is driving the choice to work. When surveyed, 44.5% of females cited childcare and homemaking commitments as the primary reason for remaining outside the labor force. Domestic production acts as a direct substitute for market labor. The survey for males shows a different set of priorities. 71.7% cite continuing their studies as the reason for non-participation, while childcare reasons account for less than 1%. By comparing these two groups, we see two distinct constraints: a temporary focus on human capital for men, and a persistent burden of household production for women. These differing structural drivers create the unique labor supply elasticities we observe across the population. While these patterns are visible in the macro data, observing a correlation between rising wages and higher participation is not proof that one caused the other. Technological progress acts as a major confounding variable. It can simultaneously drive wages up while changing the nature of work, making it impossible to tell which factor actually moved the participation rate. Isolating the true elasticity of labor supply requires exogenous variation, a change in income or wages that comes from outside the system, like a specific policy shift, rather than internal economic growth. This requires an experimental framework, where a treatment group exposed to a policy shock is compared against a control group that remains unchanged. Without these exogenous shocks, macroeconomic data only shows a final equilibrium. It cannot reveal the underlying behavioral laws governing the choice to work. Those behavioral laws originate in consumer choice theory. Every labor decision is the result of microscopic trade-offs between competing desires. We map this trade-off on a Cartesian plane, with leisure on the x-axis, consumption on the y-axis. Indifference curves represent preferences. Each curve shows combinations yielding equal utility. The limitation is the budget constraint. Consumption plus wage rate multiplied by leisure equals total non-labor income. The budget line slope is the wage rate, the explicit opportunity cost of time spent not working. Utility is maximized where the highest indifference curve is perfectly tangent to this line. Here, the marginal rate of substitution between consumption and leisure equals the wage. Labor supply directly results from this calculation. Optimal hours worked equals the total time available minus the leisure chosen at this tangency point. This calculation dictates the intensive margin, how many hours a person works. The initial decision to enter the market at all is the extensive market. This is determined by the reservation wage. This is the exact wage threshold where an individual is indifferent between working and remaining unemployed. This threshold shifts based on personal preferences and baseline non-labor income. If the market wage falls below this reservation price, the individual will choose not to participate, and their labor supply drops to zero. When the market wage increases, two opposing forces act on the individual's optimization problem. The substitution effect occurs because a higher wage makes leisure more expensive. This incentivizes the individual to work more and take less time off. Simultaneously, a higher wage makes the person wealthier, triggering the income effect. Leisure is a normal good. As people become wealthier, they want more of it. This pushes the individual to reduce hours as pay rises. Because these two effects pull in opposite directions, the total impact of a wage increase on hours worked is theoretically ambiguous. We can resolve this ambiguity by tracking behavior as wages move from low to high. At lower wage levels, the substitution effect dominates. People work more as their pay rises, creating an upward-sloping labor supply curve. But at high wages, wealth goals are met and the income effect takes over. They buy back their time, and the curve bends backward. This proves that human effort is not a linear commodity. People inherently cap their market participation once they reach a specific wealth threshold. These concepts apply directly to policies like the Earned Income Tax Credit, which provides a conditional income supplement to low-wage workers. The EITC budget constraint has 3 zones. In the steep phase-in, the supplement raises the effective wage, strengthening the substitution effect. In the flat plateau and phase-out zones, withdrawing the credit acts as a tax, generating an income effect that reduces hours worked. Theoretically, the EITC should significantly increase the extensive margin by pulling people into jobs, while slightly decreasing the intensive margin for those already working. Economists use difference in differences to confirm these theoretical effects in the real world. The equation measures an outcome, y, by tracking a treatment group, such as families with children, against a control group after the policy change. By comparing these groups, the beta coefficient isolates the causal impact of the policy, removing the influence of general economic trends. This method proved the theory correct, identifying a 2.4 percentage point increase in participation purely from the policy shock. This differs from unconditional welfare, which provides income without a tie to work. Such programs raise the reservation wage without providing a substitution effect, which can decrease participation. The evidence shows that while people rarely adjust their hours at the intensive margin, the extensive margin, the decision to join the workforce, is highly reactive to policy. This explains why women in the Indian data show much higher labor supply elasticity than men. Their lower market wages and high household production responsibilities keep them very close to their reservation wage. Even a small shift in policy or pay can tip the balance and pull them into or out of the market. Tax rates, non-labor income, and household roles are all linked. Changing one parameter shifts the others as individuals reach a new labor equilibrium. Labor supply is the end product of this internal engine. It is determined by the specific tax code, the opportunity cost of an individual's time, and the structural trade-offs within their household.